Thanks for joining me this afternoon. I'm pretending to be in Redcar today. It's the only way I get to travel. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do with the creative arts in Teesside?
All right, so I run an organisation called the Start Studio. We used to have a studio, a physical studio in Linthorpe Village, which opened just about 3.5 years ago. During the last few months, we've moved out of the studio and just become a purely place-based service, delivering creative arts activities, raising the value, trying to raise the value of arts education in primary schools, but at the same time providing some nice things for the community to get involved with as well, because it's a great connector, isn't it? Arts. Everyone
Absolutely.
brings different ideas to it. So yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, I think it's the foundation of most learning, even though it's not entirely recognised.
Absolutely, totally agree.
So is this something you've been doing a while? Have you always been involved with the arts? Did you come from a creative family?
Yeah, I did actually. Nobody in my family would have said they worked as an artist, but everybody was really creative. So in my family, I've got sign writers. My granddad worked on the shipyards. But he painted every night. He painted pottery for like an extra bit of money, and he really enjoyed like the engagement of that. It's really meditative. So my granddad always had things at home that he was painting, and people would come and collect them, take them away for firing. My grandma worked in the mailings factory in pottery. I didn't really get on with school. My other granddad as well, he was a miner, but he painted miniatures. So everyone was really creative. But I didn't have a great time at school, and I ended up going to art college. And it's just a language for me. I loved it, and I thrived, and ended up kind of working in creative industries through my 20s, until I just got a bit more socially aware in my early 30s when I had my own children, and I retrained to become a primary teacher. And the things that I learned at university, the creative approaches that I learned about, I really wanted to use, and then I found I couldn't, because I don't get to decide those things. And so I left, went pirate, and I left, and I started my own organisation. And now I work with all of those schools. I work with the school that I used to teach at. They used to come into the studio and bring whole classes on the bus, and now everyone gets it. So I'm thrilled about that. And it's growing, and we're changing things in Teesside in schools through some of the partnership work we've done as well.
That's absolutely brilliant to have the courage to step out on your own and know the way that you wanted to teach the arts, and realise that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I felt that everywhere I went as a freelance, the teachers, and they're real professionals, they really care, and they completely see the benefits, but their hands were tied. They'd come to me constantly. Even senior leaderships of school would constantly tell me they didn't have the funding, they didn't have the time, and it's because it wasn't assessed in the same way as a lot of other subjects are. So it wasn't valued as highly, but it wasn't because they didn't appreciate it. And I thought that I could see a way of changing that. And it was a bit of a risk, a bit of a jump. But in the end, I just thought, you've got to try and be that change. And so fortunately it worked. But
Well, I admire your courage. I think it's very difficult to have the conviction that in your art, because as you say, it's a little bit it's maybe not as respected as it should be, and to be confident in yourself that you can make your own way in the arts and bring that kind of benefit to the kids in the way that you want to do it.
Yeah, well, I didn't know, and the first 6 months of the studio being open, I'd kept this little book about how many coffees we'd sold, how many people we'd had in every day, and it's embarrassing. It's pitiful. I'd have the door wide open all day, and sometimes you might just have half a dozen popping their faces in, but I just had to trust that eventually I would get to speak to the right people. And what I found was, in the end, it was teachers that brought their children in to engage with the arts activities because they knew the value, but they hadn't had a place they could go before. You know, you can take children to places to do arts, performing arts, sports, swimming, gymnastics, dance, all of these things. But no, it's no wonder that, you know, arts is undervalued, because it's paid very little attention in teacher training. There are places to do it. And the current situation in the schools that we've talked about, which is changing, you know, it's really great, it is changing now. But if these places are not there where it's seen to be done and valued, how are we supposed to value arts education? And 1 in 11 jobs is in a creative industry now in the UK. Hello.
Yeah, this is a kind of statistic that I kind of like to mention as much as possible, and it's amazing how many people actually working in the creative arts don't know that it brings more into our economy than agriculture.
Yes.
That it brings more than the automobile industry, aviation and automation combined. You know, it's a massive...
Yeah. And I'd always really loved arts, and not only for the health and well-being agendas and all of that kind of thing. That engagement that I got as a child was pushed aside at school, and I was told it wasn't serious. And I really loved technical drawing, and I wasn't allowed to do it. I wasn't allowed to choose it as an option. And you know, I just didn't want that to go on anymore, because it's a language for a lot of children, especially children with special educational needs, especially ASD children. And I could give you 101 reasons why it needs to be embedded in our culture, our communities, our recreation, and, well, everything really. And everything.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, you know, not everybody has a scientific brain, not everyone has that kind of academic brain, and it doesn't mean that they've got nothing to give, that they're worthless. They just need to find their place. And I think it shouldn't be such a struggle to find that place in the arts, because, you know, as you say, it's a really big part of our economy, and it's a very big employer.
Hugely. And not only that, I mean, that is really important, but the skills, the creative skills that are transferable, that you learn in arts, in these kinds of engaging activities that the children love and feel comfortable with, and they can extend their own boundaries on their own, of their own choosing, because they're leading their own learning in this area. Then they transfer that to their learning in other areas all across the curriculum, because they are developing inquiry skills and imagination and discipline and collaboration. So this is something, this kind of teaching, this kind of learning, teaching and learning, really helps embed those skills across the other subjects as well. So it's a really, really, really good learning tool.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm really glad that there seems to be some recognition. Things do seem to be, I mean, it was going really bad the other way for a while, but it seems to be turning around a bit.
It definitely is. It definitely is in Teesside. We've been working on a project for 2 years now that was supported and funded by the Paul Hamlin Foundation, a foundation who seeks to address disadvantage, children experiencing disadvantage, so that they have more cultural opportunities. And the outcomes of that project have been utterly transformational for the schools we've worked with. That one school trust has decided to put creativity at the heart of their school curriculum, has rewritten their whole curriculum, and is now making plans for creativity to be their unique selling point in all of their 5 schools. And that's an outcome, isn't it?
That is, I mean, you must be really proud of that.
Yeah, I'm very proud.
And that's changing a lot of people's individual lives, but also changing an overall philosophy of a school, which is
It absolutely is. It is changing individual lives, because the children will always remember those experiences. And that's why, as a company, the Start Studio, as a a community interest company, we use our surplus to deliver funded teacher training opportunities for primary teachers, because that's the most equitable way that we can raise the game. I can't do it all. I can do a lovely art lesson, but I'm one person and I don't like to teach more than 10 children at a time. So this is the way forward, isn't it? To embed it in the schools, get them to share their practice, and then lead other skills learning. So
yeah, absolutely. I did a community organising course last year, and that's the basis of it, is to go in and make yourself redundant, basically, give everybody the skills that they need, pass them on so that they can do that for themselves and pass it on to others.
Yeah, I know that actually suits me, because I like the ideas and I like to get it all going, and then I like to go, all right, I'm going to go over here and now and do something else, because I've got a really short attention span. Which is why this kind of learning is, you can see why it's my thing, because I have the attention span of a child.
Well, I'm not sure that should really be drummed out of anyone. I don't know if it's a short attention span or a heightened interest.
It's probably definitely a bit of both.
Well, I could talk to you for a lot longer, but sadly I've got another interview coming up. So I think just briefly, you touched on you've had to change your practice to be an online practice. I saw your new website, which looks fantastic.
I love it. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, so do send me, I'll put the links up on the interview when that goes up. And
yeah, for sure. I'll send you the links to all of our social media is really on the website. It's just really easy to find us now.
Brilliant. It's been fantastic talking to you, and I hope we get to meet one another in real life at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. Yeah. Thank you.
Take care. Toodle-pip.
Bye.